Hey, welcome back to Coaches at Crown Brew Getting Coffee. I'm Kerry Martin, and I've got another guest today to talk about coaching and philosophy and culture, and I'm excited to have Carterville softball coach Will Capie with me today. Let me start by thanking Crown Brew for letting us use their facility. Thank Ross and Abby from Swinford Media for being here today and for filming this and editing this and making it all look as good as they do. And I want to thank my buddies at Adrenaline Fundraising. Jeff and Matt are great. They'll help you raise money for your program. If you've got fundraising needs, make sure you see them. And I'm excited. A guy I've known for a long time, Mr. Will Capie, with me today. And Will, welcome to Coaches at Crown Brew Getting Coffee.
Thank you for having me. Just having the opportunity to be in a line of speakers, especially as distinguished as the ones that you've had on here, it really is humbling, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, you deserve it. Your resume proves that. And I'm going to start with the most uncomfortable part for my guest, and that's going through some achievements, which nobody wants to hear them. You don't, but people do, and they need to hear them, because I'm so proud of I was proud of the player you were, but man, the coach you've become. So let's start with most recent, the 2024 state champions in girls softball. You have an overall record of 201-57. You had 2 state titles as a head coach. You have 1 as an assistant coach, 6 regional titles, 5 conference titles, 4 Sweet 16s, 2 Elite 8s, Coach of the Year in 16, 22, and 24, Sectional Coach of the Year in 16, 22, and 24. And I just want to say this, overall Carterville's program, softball program, I don't know what the starting date was for this, but since
2005.
Since 2005, 543 wins, 13 regionals, 10 Sweet 16s, 7 Elite 8s, 7 sectionals, 3 titles, 5 Players of the Year, which we'll get to, and 44 college players and 26 all-state players. Woo, man, that took a while, and that is so impressive. And let's talk about it. And I want to welcome you again. Let's start, Will, with your childhood. Let the people know where you grew up, some background, family stuff. Here we go.
I was born in Carterville, or raised in Carterville, I should say. And at the time, it was a town of 3,000. It's more than doubled that now. And it was one of those towns where, you'd come in from school, you do your homework, and then you might hear somebody outside dribbling a basketball. You're running out the front door, and, the rest of your evening's planned. You're playing wiffle ball, basketball, football, whatever it may be. I grew up in a neighborhood, just a ton of kids. Yeah. So we were always outside. We always were doing some sort of activity out there. My about 4th, 5th grade, I really started following my sister around, who was involved in all kinds of sports. And that's kind of what spurred my interest in athletics, was just being in the neighborhood and following my sister around. And, by the time that, I followed her around late nights, basketball, going to, golf tournaments that were, in South Carolina, Florida, Louisiana, I was really excited when it was my turn, So when that happened, that's kind of what spurred, my athletic background right there and what got me interested.
And Sarah was a phenomenal athlete. She went to Florida State.
She went to Florida State on a golf scholarship, but I think, a lot of things, something people may not know about her was when she took her visits to Notre Dame and U of I, they asked her to play basketball as well.
Yeah.
She was a very decorated athlete, a very good athlete. And, Sarah, I'm still very close to all my sisters, but Sarah was the one who was, by age, closest to me.
Yeah.
And I idolized her.
Yeah.
So I knew she was a great athlete. I was a little young at the time, but now we're kind of going back. You kind of recognize that she was pretty good.
She's right there at the beginning of my tenure at Carterville, and I think my brother Kurt said that he agreed to go golfing with her and regretted that after about 3 holes.
Boy, she's a great scramble partner now, because you get her at from the red tees.
Yeah. So let's get into high school. You go to high school, Carterville High School. And so what were your sports backgrounds? What did you play?
I played all 3 sports until I was a sophomore. And about my sophomore year, I decided to only focus on football and baseball. Baseball was my passion. it's what I excelled at.
Yeah.
I love Friday night football.
Yeah.
You know, if you grew up in Carterville, Friday nights were spent at the football field, where you see your friends on the cinder track. You know, the fans, you know, right on top of you, the cannon. And I'll never forget. I think I was in 6th grade when you went on, you know, the '96 run, and you were playing DuQuoin. I was homesick and
Oh, I didn't know
listening
that.
on the radio.
I didn't know
And my
that.
parents were like, "You're gonna be all right. We'll see you. We're going to the game." And from that point on, when that run right there, I think, you know, it really enthused and got me excited. I couldn't wait to be a part of that program when I got older. And that, you know, is what got me excited and interested in playing football for the Carterville Lions.
Yeah, that's great. And baseball became your next level game. You were my quarterback right about the time I left, and did a phenomenal job for me. And of course, leaving any school, if you're the head coach, is always a difficult thing. It was a tough decision to make, and leaving players like you behind. But you went on to have great success, and you went on and furthered your baseball career at Kaskaskia College. Am I correct?
Correct. So yes, when some people don't know this, but Coach, I wasn't exactly sure if I was going to play baseball in college or football. McKendree College, you know, recruited me pretty hard, and Coach Fisher, and you know, he would every time I tell him this story, he laughs at me and he says, "I did not say that," but I wasn't sure what I was going to do.
Yeah.
You know, again, like I said, I excelled in baseball, but I really loved playing football. And you know, when McKendree was recruiting me, you know, I'm thinking to myself, I'm 5'11", 165 pounds. And, you know, I know the quarterback that went there the year prior, which was Nick Franciscan, who was 6'3", 225 pounds.
The Johnson City product.
Right,
Yeah.
Johnson City product. I'm thinking to myself, I am way too small to be going. But again, it was just something that intrigued me, and I kind of drug my feet on making the decision. And it was after the Anna Jonesboro game, which was week 9 at the time for us. And, you know, Adam Casper and Bo Bennett just beat me down. And I remember having to take my ACT the next morning. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to sit in a chair. And I get a call from Coach Fish. And he goes, "All right, Cap, you know, it's about time to make that decision. Are you going to do baseball or are you going to do football?" And I was like, "Coach, you know, I'm not 100% sure." And he goes, "I'll be honest with you, Cap." He goes, "We're going to be pretty good with you, but we're going to be pretty good without you too." And I'm like, okay, you know, that made my decision a lot easier. And I appreciated that honesty he had with me. And I was like, because I was a 17-year-old kid. I didn't want to upset anybody or let anybody down. I think that maybe is what caused me to drag my feet a little bit.
Yeah, of course. You want to please people, and you want to support people, and kind of let you off the hook there a little bit, which is pretty cool. Coach Fish is a great guy.
He's an
man.
awesome guy. And, you know, we laugh about that now. But yes, I went on to KC, and really, you know, KC was the first time that I felt failure. You know, I really, you know, I had a good fall, and then my freshman year, the spring, I really struggled.
Yeah.
And then fortunately, you know, sophomore year, you know, picked it back up, but then by that time when it was over, I knew it was over.
Yeah.
You know, I had opportunities to go on and play, you know, beyond KC, and it was just, you know when they say, you know, you'll know it's done when you know.
Yeah.
I knew.
Yeah. I felt that way about my coaching career. People asked me about why I retired or how did you know, and I just said, I just knew.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I can't explain it really. I just, in my heart, I knew. And there were 1,000 little things, but I just knew.
Right.
And so you just know. But somewhere at Kaskaskia College, there is a statue of me. You may not know this. It's a statue of me for the most likely to live a life of academic mediocrity while spending their 2 years there. That was not a good experience for me. Nothing against the school, but I did not thrive at Kaskaskia Community College. Had 2 years, wandered around there, not knowing what I wanted to do in life, and then the light bulb came on once I went to Southern. But so I'm glad you had a better experience there than I did. And again, it's cool that you got that chance. Did you? And I've asked this before to people, but you went to Kaskaskia, and nobody there knows you as Will Capie from Carterville. That can be a growing experience itself, in that you couldn't bring anything with you. Reputation-wise, you kind of start from scratch.
And you're away from home from the first time, even though it was an hour and 20 minutes from home. And then when you start to struggle for the first time, because everybody's as good as you.
Yeah.
And you're bringing in kids, from all over the Midwest, and you're playing in a conference that is a very good conference. And it was the first time in really my baseball career that I struggled, and I didn't necessarily know how to claw out of it. I just fortunately I had a great support system at home,
Yeah.
and it enabled me to get out of it.
You went on to SIU, no sports, just school. And at what point did teaching and coaching, did you know this is what I want to do? Was that something you already knew in high school, or did you figure that out later?
My senior year of high school.
Okay.
My buddies are taking a class, and they're like, you need to get in this class. And it was college English. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if I want to do that my senior year, the rigor of the classroom and college English. And, I went ahead and did it. And it turned out to be the best decision I ever made, because, one of my favorite teachers of all time, Sherry Hunter.
Oh, of course.
And
she's amazing.
Incredible lady who I still have we got back on a Sunday. I had a postcard in the mail on Wednesday for the state finals. And, she just had an incredible impact on my life, made me feel adequate in that class. And she, one day after class comes to me and said, have you given any thought to what you want to do? And I said, no, not really. Just kind of figure it out in college. And she said, I think you would make an amazing teacher. And I said, well, I'll give that some consideration, So then, start to, in my first couple years of college, get all those general courses in. And then I'm thinking, by the time I go to SI, I said, this is what I'm going to do.
Sherry planted that seed, didn't she?
She did.
She did.
And she's an amazing, eloquent lady.
That's a great word to use for her. We were neighbors in the high school. Our rooms were next to each other, and I was so blessed to not only get to know her as a person, but as a teacher and a colleague. And she was a very special lady, and special in my life and to my brother. And so I'm so glad you gave her the shout out she deserves, because she was the best. So the thing that I don't think people know is you decided to go into teaching, but you chose elementary.
I did.
And it's not an area where, a lot of male teachers and especially coaches lean towards secondary education, and you chose elementary education.
Well, there's two reasons for that. One, for the exact reason you just said, there was not a lot of males in the profession. So then when you go apply for a job, you kind of have a leg up, because there's just not, and then two, I was going to be 22 years old teaching 18-year-old kids. That still scares me thinking about it, So those are the two reasons that I lean toward elementary. And I'll be honest, I thought down the line, like, maybe I'll coach someday. But it wasn't something that, I want to teach and I want to coach. That was never really something that I wanted to do. And it just,
Wow. Okay. So this is great. Kindergarten for 11 years. Oh my gosh, that is so cool. Yeah, interesting. What was that like?
Well, what made it great was no 2 days were the same. You walk in one day and you're going to have 3 kids crying and you don't know why. I tell this story all the time. I had a kid play for me through high school who was also my kindergarten student. And every day she would come to school and just be in tears. No reason, just in tears until April. That was every day until April.
Yeah.
And we joked about it a lot, as she was going through the program. And like I said, no 2 days were the exact same. You have a kid's crying, you might have somebody throw up on your shoes. And I think that's what made it fun, what made it interesting. I mean, just some of the stories that you would hear. You and other kindergarten teachers would joke around like, if we just wrote down all the funny things we heard and made a book out of it, we'd make a lot of money.
Yeah. It's funny because I was a teacher, secondary education, mostly juniors and seniors, and you were a kindergarten teacher, and they called us both teachers, but our jobs could not have been more different.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so people in my area of teaching cannot imagine doing that. And then I had the elementary teacher say, I can't
Right.
imagine doing what you do. But so blessed, I'm sure, to have you down there doing a great job. You went to K3 PE for 6 years. That's where you're at now?
That's where I'm currently at right now.
Okay. And then in 2008, you start coaching softball. Am I correct? As an assistant coach for
Yes.
Brett Dial.
Yep.
So tell me about that initial experience of coaching softball for the first time.
Well, I'll tell you how it started. I'll remember the night. I'm sitting with Amber, my family as well, and I get a phone call, and it's a number I don't have saved in my phone book, so I just kind of let it go to voicemail. So then I listen to the voicemail, and it's Brett Dial. And I call him back and he starts talking to me about, would you be interested in helping out? And I said, well, let me talk about it with Amber. Yeah, that's absolutely. That's something that I hadn't really thought about.
Yeah.
And so I went with it, and I had never coached girls before.
Yeah.
I had never even thought about coaching girls. And so the first day of practice, I've played in, regional championships, college conference championship games, and I was expecting it to be a little bit different. And when I went to that first practice and I see young ladies diving, sliding loud, and just, it was more intense than any college or high school practice or game I had ever been a part of.
Wow, that is awesome.
And that was a practice.
That opened your eyes.
It did. It did. And I was hooked.
So in the 6 years as an assistant, you guys did win a state title?
Correct.
What was the year for that?
2008.
Oh, the first year.
First year.
So the first year you're there, you win a state championship. Yes. So that's got to be
spoiled.
Yeah.
I thought I looked at it, and you look at that year, and it was a small group. You go into that year, and we had 2 starters from the previous year's team transfer to a conference school.
Oh.
And then that team, that 2008 team, went 38-2, and then 10 run the state championship game. So that was an incredibly gifted and talented team to be a part of. Kind of spoiled, I thought, no, every year's going to be like this.
Yeah. So, assistant for 6 years, you end up in 2016.
Yep.
Brett moves on to some administrative positions, and you're the logical choice to be the head softball coach, and you take the job in 2016. Yeah. Was this a no-brainer? This is the job I want?
No, actually, it was, 2015, I stepped aside. I wasn't helping out anymore. I was finishing my master's degree in admin. Drake was getting older. He was starting to, play more. And I was missing a lot for classes. And I was also missing, games and stuff like that. And when you're a coach, and I feel like if you're missing practices and games, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to be all in with it.
Right.
And I don't know if, I just didn't feel like I would get the same amount of, I didn't feel like my feedback or my input would be I didn't know if it'd be well received as it was when I was there every single day.
Right.
So it's 2015. We're at Christmas in Carterville, and Brett had taken the job, and he goes, "Want to have a conversation tomorrow?" And I'm thinking, I know what this is
Here
about.
It comes. Yeah.
And I said, "Yes. What time?" And he says, "I'll meet you at the Country Cupboard at 8 a.m." And I said, "That's fine." I said, I talked it over with Amber first. I said, "Do you care if I meet?" I said, "I'm going to tell him no." Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So we're in the Country Cupboard for, 3-4 hours, 4 pots of coffee. And I just knew at the time, I was like, he's not going to let me out of here without me telling him yes. No. I said, "All right, I'll do it." Yeah. I said, "But let me go check with Amber first." So
smart man.
Yeah. So here's the thing. You don't want to be the guy following the guy.
I know,
right?
Right.
Brett had 300 plus wins, multiple regional titles, multiple sectional titles, a state championship.
And so let's just say that you won the title in 8, but they were still really, really good every year after that. So
super sectional in 11, super sectional, I want to say in 14, and then lost in 15 innings in the sectional championship, in 15. So
a lot of us were stunned that he walked away from the softball job.
Yeah. And so that's crossing my mind as well. And, I talked to Amber. I thought about it that night, couldn't sleep. maybe it's because I had 900 milligrams of caffeine from that day. But,
Yeah.
And then I decided to take it, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Awesome. I want to change gears a little bit. I want to run through some softball stuff, some philosophical stuff, some culture stuff. You didn't inherit a program that needed to be built. It was already there. So let's talk about the challenges to maintaining success.
Okay.
Because not only did Brett do it, but the change can be a big change when you lose the head coach. But you were able to continue maintaining that success. What are some keys to that, or what are some of the challenges to that?
Well, like with anything, it's never just one thing. Obviously, you've got to have really good players, and we're blessed. We have great players. I think part of the reason we have great players, though, is because of the program success.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about, I was sick in '96, and when you won that state, you were on the state run. You excited and created a whole new wave of want to be Carterville football players. And, when you go into our gym and you're listening and standing for the national anthem, you've got to look at the flag and you see 3 Carterville state banners.
Yeah.
Not to mention, we talked about every school's got their sectional, conference, regional championship banners, and one of our banners is completely full, and we've got to order another one.
Good problem.
Yes, and kids see that, and parents see that as well, and they want their kids to be a part of that. They want to be a part of that, and I think you can take it one step further. Now that you have parents that want to be a part of that, you're starting to create a youth organization or youth teams at just about every grade level with majority Carterville kids. And these kids are learning how to win together and play softball. They're learning how to lose. And, when they move into junior high and they've won together, they've lost together, but they're still together. Yeah. And maintaining that, it's purposeful. There is a reason behind it. It's not just like, hey, we just want to play softball. No, we want to keep a group of kids together so they can be successful together, when they get to junior high and high school. And then another thing I think we do well as a coaching staff is we're very proactive. We see things that could be potential issues down the road, and we're not reacting to them. You and I have had conversations before in here about potential problems that our team may encounter. And how we can come up with solutions for those problems. And while our solutions may not always work, we're thinking about them. So we're always thinking, always trying to find ways to improve. So I think those things combined help us and are the reason we continue to have success at the high school level.
If we stopped right now, that would be awesome, because that is a lesson. Organizationally speaking, any organization, that proactive approach, being purposeful about the proactive approach, is money. How do you stay hungry in the midst of the success? You, the players, the complacency can be dangerous.
Right.
How do you stay hungry? I know motivated might be a better word, but how do you maintain that?
Well, I mean, it kind of goes back to what some potential problems that we may encounter down the road are. When is, for your kids, when is winning not enough?
Yeah.
And for me individually, when I'm not hungry anymore, then that's probably the time that I need to step away from the game. So right now, I think what drives me is seeing the kids excited, the joy that they have, the faces that I saw after the last win of the year, that's going to be a memory that lasts them a lifetime. And how can we continue to create, those memories for those kids? Because this year, guess what? It's a new team. It's a new puzzle to put together.
Do you find it difficult to maintain the fun of the game with the pressure to be successful? Have you found you feel like you're finding a good mix in there?
A good balance, yes. And I think that's just because me personally, I don't take a lot of things too seriously.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to laugh at myself, not afraid to joke. And while I know winning is important, I still can it's still a game.
Yeah.
And those types of things, and not being too uptight, because if you're too uptight, your kids feel it too.
Good point.
So,
Off-season training, you have expectations that are already upon you each and every year for the spring season coming up. Here we sit, October, and you've got a season coming up, probably starting practice late February, early March. But in the off-season, how involved is it something that is kind of farmed out to the hitting establishments, pitching establishments, or is this something you are actively involved in?
Yeah, one thing that I have learned is less is more. Our season, like you said, it starts in February. We're playing to the first weekend in June. We had athletes on Wednesday that were flying out to Florida, flying out to California, wherever it may be, to go continue to play.
Yeah.
Their season is going from February through November.
Yeah.
And if there's no reason for us to be meeting and to continue, it's too much. And we'll start some light stuff in late January, mid-January, but they are so dedicated that all of them are working on, and they reach out, they talk to you about it, they tell you about it. That they're working, their pitching lessons. Many of them, years ago we did, I want to say it was as late as 2018, maybe 2019. We started workouts in October, like lifting weights and things like that. And I think I look back and I was confusing activity with accomplishment. What were we accomplishing by doing that? And I don't think it was really anything. And I learned from that, and it just now, because you're with them all the time, it's a grind of a season from February to June. If you're with them in October, you're going to be tired of them by February, and they're going to be tired of you.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I think, though, we feel pressure as coaches that we should be doing something. I think, Will, it takes some confidence in yourself and your program to let go. Because all of us would rather be over-prepared than under-prepared. But it takes some confidence to say, I trust my kids, I trust my program. And that's a mature coaching thing that you've certainly got some peace with, that I think a lot of young coaches struggle with.
It took some time.
Yeah.
And it took some trial and error. And sometimes even when we're not doing stuff, I'm thinking, should we be doing something?
Yeah.
Because you're following, social media, and you're seeing
Other
teams working out. And again, I think we have the right mix. I think we found a happy medium, and we're going to continue to do that.
It's awesome. How's the game changing? I mean, from 2008 to 2024, anything stand out to you while the game has really evolved here?
For me, and again, this is different in every sport. For me, what's changed is just an oversaturation of resources. And what I mean by that is, if you look at baseball and softball, they're unique in a way where you have you can go find a hitting coach just about in any direction. Point in any direction, I'll give you 5 hitting coaches. You can go get a pitching coach, a fielding coach, and in no other sport you can find that around here. So for me, it's finding that balance of, okay, so they have this person telling them this, their parents telling them something, another person telling them this. Now, if I'm another voice in their head, that's just going to confuse a 16, 17, and 18-year-old kid, and it's going to stress them out even more. So I think one of the bigger changes that I've had in my coaching philosophy is, especially with hitting, I feel like there's certain great things that all hitters do. But if you can hit 350 standing on your head, I'm not going to try to correct you.
Yeah.
Hit 350.
Yeah.
So my focus now has been on the approach, because I think that's something that we're missing. You're going to go to, and rightfully so, you're going to work mechanics. Okay, so I asked myself, what can I add on to this? Or what part are we missing maybe that I can help with? So that's kind of what I'm seeing. So when I say not only that, you're also seeing just a rise in travel clubs everywhere. You know, you can play on 8 different 10U teams in a 10-mile radius. So
is it getting younger also?
It's getting a lot younger. You know, I want to say my daughter, and again, I'm part of the problem. You know, I want to say Ella started 8U when she was 6.
Yeah.
So yes, it's getting younger and younger, and it's getting a little bit more competitive at the younger ages when it doesn't need to be.
I think this will be helpful for coaches. Part of the reason the podcast was to let people see who you are, not just your success on the field, but who you are as a person. And that's clearly coming out. But I think what happens, Will, if there is a disconnect between what they're being taught in their training facility and what you want them to do?
And that, for me, is the greatest challenge. Those are the kind of questions that we're still continuing to answer, and it kind of goes back to being proactive.
Right.
You know, these are the potential issues that we may run into. And in being in such a competitive program, you know, we have young ladies who are going and playing on these travel teams. They're batting in the 3 spot, they're pitching all the innings, and then they come to our program and they're going to sit the bench. You know, and it's not because they're not talented. They could start for a lot of teams in Southern Illinois. You know, it's just that we've been blessed over the last, 20 plus years with incredible talent.
Yeah.
You know, I mentioned to you earlier that, in 2023 we had 7 seniors. Only about, I want to say, 3 of them got consistent at bats for us. The other 4 didn't, and still went on to play college softball.
Yeah.
So it is a difficult part. It's a blessing and a curse, because those are difficult conversations to have. But
so this travel ball, these training facilities have elevated the game.
Absolutely.
Southern Illinois softball may be the most competitive sport of all the sports across the state in this region. We're really good. Yeah. But at the same time, it has some complications with it. But that's not going to change, right? This is something this is here to stay.
Yeah, and we just talked about how it's getting younger and younger, and the money involved in it. Yeah. It's probably not going to go back to the way it was anytime soon. Yeah. But like you said, it's incredibly competitive. You know, just in our conference alone, our side of the conference alone had 3 Division I softball players in it. Yeah. I don't know if there's any other sports in our area where they can tout, the conference and 3 Division I softball players. It's an incredibly dense area full of really, really, really good softball.
Yeah. And week in and week out, you're playing a really good team. Yeah. In conference, out of conference, doesn't matter. And you've scheduled really, really good teams in your non-conference schedule, even going out of state to play some really good teams.
Yeah. Our schedule's a nightmare, but it's something that our girls take a lot of pride in.
Sure.
They want to go out and they want to play the best. I believe last year, out of our 39 games, I want to say 19 of them were against ranked opponents. Yeah. We had a third of our schedule that was against 3 and 4A schools. We didn't have a 1A team on our schedule. We had 2 requests to come play. And not a lot of teams, request to come to your place of play. And our schedule is tough. It's fun. You're going to Kentucky to play Castle, Indiana, and you're going down to Tennessee and playing Lincoln County, whose corner infielders are going. We got one going to Evansville, one going to Memphis. They're going to play the number 1 team in Alabama, who went 38-0 and just beat the brakes off of us 2 years in a row down in Tennessee. Yeah. I mean, but what you're doing is when you have hyper competitive athletes and that are wanting to play at the next level. Yeah. You're giving them an opportunity at the high school level to see what they're going against. Because you think they're only going to see that in travel ball. Well, if you come, our schedule, it's going to show you that as well.
Yeah, that's great that your kids are expecting that. They want that competition. Let's talk about your junior high program, because I know it's very successful. And so talk about that a little bit.
I think what's most impressive about the junior high program, it's not the state titles. I mean, there's 12 state titles in 22 years.
Wow.
That's really good. And I don't think that's the most impressive. I think the most impressive thing about it is we've had 2 coaches there in the last 25 or 26 years. And the continuity of it is what's really impressive. And, Keenan Clark was there, and I think he had won, I want to say 7 state titles in his tenure there. And then Cody Ashton has been there when Keenan left, and he won 5 in a row. Yeah. They had a 98-game win streak.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it is not bad. But the junior high program is something, I'm pretty hands-off with it. I'm in contact with Cody, multiple times a week, just checking on how are things going, getting some details on some of the kids who are coming up, and I have to kind of continue to further myself away from that, because my daughter is getting ready to come in into junior high, and I just want to make sure that she makes her own path.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges in youth programs, junior high programs, is in my sport of football, it was that continuity. Junior high football tends to be dads who volunteer, and then when their kids are done, they're gone. And if you have really good ones, they don't last very long. And but the point is, it's that continuity. I love that you said that. That is huge, having that consistency and having that program and that culture. And then you're inheriting a really, really kids off to a good start.
And it's not, I mean, every once in a while, Coach, a couple of years, he would ask me to come down, and I'd go down and help practice and just kind of, I'd hit ground balls, hit fly balls. I mean, I wouldn't say much other than a couple positive things, but kind of just let him take the reins, but just so the kids could also see my face as well and interact with me.
Yeah. I'm gonna mention a player of the year, and just tell me something that comes to mind about one of your players of the year.
Okay.
Okay. So Brittany Ashton.
I had Brittany for one season. It was the 2008 season, and she was a left-handed pitcher, threw 60 plus miles an hour. When we were from the left side, when we were at 40 feet, she was dominant.
Yeah,
she was so dominant. And Cody, her dad, is my assistant coach.
Gotcha. Avery English.
Dog.
Yeah.
Just my favorite story about Avery English. Okay, we talk about legacy in our program quite a bit, actually. And we're never going to mention your numbers, your stats, or anything like that, because people aren't going to remember that. They're going to remember what kind of teammate you were.
Man, that's right.
And Keenan Clark, I'm not going to do this justice, but Keenan Clark always tells a story at the junior high state championship game. They're playing Carmine, and Avery's pitching, and a girl hits a line drive off her face mask. Thank goodness, she was wearing a face mask, and the ball goes into center field and was almost caught in the air. That's how hard it was hit. Keenan goes out there, and she's visibly shaken, and he goes, "You want me to bring somebody in?" And she just says, "Give me the ball." She was the toughest 5'8", 95-pound kid I have ever coached, and just incredibly smart.
I love it.
One of a kind.
Give me the ball.
Yeah.
Amaya Doyle.
The term natural born leader is something that's thrown around a lot, but you rarely ever see it. She was that. Yeah. She had a smile. She has a smile that lights up a room and has a presence that you feel. She made me better as a coach. Yeah. I knew the work that she was putting in, because I'd be getting to school at 7 a.m. and she'd been there since 6:30 on the field working out by herself and her dad. And those types of players, they don't come around often.
I had the pleasure of meeting her at a couple of events for FCA, and you're right. Within minutes of having a conversation with her, there was something special. It was really awesome. Is it Cadence Phillips and Taryn Ford?
Elite.
Yeah.
That's what comes to my mind. We've really never heard of our pitchers. These young lady started making a name for themselves in about the 4th or 5th grade. And we're like, when these two get here,
Yeah.
it's over.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, they came in as freshmen. And what's interesting, when they came in as freshmen, we had an all-state left-handed pitcher who was only going to be a junior. And these two came in and just said, thanks for holding our spot, you know, and they just came in and, you know, dominated. But then, you know, that was their freshman year. And then we got beat down in the sectional championship by Johnson City. And I don't think anybody felt worse than they did. It wasn't their fault.
Yeah.
You know, we just didn't play well, and Johnson City played really well. And then the next year, this past year, they combined for over 500 strikeouts.
Wow.
They took it upon themselves in the off season and said, this will never happen again.
Yeah. I love how they used adversity for opportunity to improve and get better. And that's a great assessment, I think, of some very special kids in your program. And before we kind of get to the conclusion part, I want to ask you, staying on top, you and I had a conversation as we went on the air that one of the great challenges besides adversity is success. And you told me one of the things you do to handle success, because your girls are very successful year in, year out. What's your approach to making sure that doesn't become an issue?
We're very honest with our kids and what to expect.
Yeah.
When we might play a game that, you know, we might think that we are the better team, right? When we play a game, we're going to tell them the truth. Like, this is a regional seeding game, okay? Or, you know, when we're in the pregame huddle, it's like, you have a bullseye on your back. You know, embrace that target. I said, if this is their Super Bowl, you know, if they beat us, this is how they're going to hang their hat on this win all season long. So we're honest with our kids, and we always want to make sure that they don't come out and be flat. And I think that's when one thing about Carterville softball is, if you come down and you don't know anything about us, we're going to play with a lot of energy. You're going to hear our dugout, and it's going to be the loudest thing. You know, the baseball coaches always tell me, we can hear you guys chanting all the way now.
Yeah.
We're going to play with energy, and we're going to play with passion, and we're going to be fierce.
Yeah.
And those are some of our core values.
That was going to be my last question. No, that's great. It's perfect. Because I like to know what coaches want people to see or what to think when they see that team play. And I love that assessment. It kind of in conclusion, let's talk about your family, your wife, Amber, 16 years. You guys have been married. Tell me about her role in the success you've had.
If I could give one piece of advice to any aspiring coach, is you better have a spouse that is going to support you. Yeah. Because there's going to be a lot of times that you're upset. Yeah. You know, I don't compartmentalize well. Yeah. In fact, she gives me a hard time because, you know, we might be on a long drive to somewhere and she'll kind of see me moving my hand and doing one of these. She goes, "Are you talking to one of your players again?" And I'm like, yeah. And now Ella's kind of joined in. Drake's kind of joined in on the fun. "Dad, who are you talking to? Who are you having a conversation with?" I'm like, yeah, they're right. That's exactly what I'm doing. But having her, especially with as busy as our kids are, having her be able to, you know, right now she's taking the youngest to a pitching lesson and you know, running Drake, you know, when we were younger, or when he was a little bit younger, all those places. You can't have sustained success without the support of your spouse. You know, there's other times where, this is when Drake was in 8th grade. I was in Chatham Glenwood overnight with the team. Drake was in Osage Beach at a baseball tournament, and Ella was in a soccer tournament, no foul. And it's just like, you're being pulled apart constantly. And some people, they can't manage that. And fortunately for us, and fortunately for me, she deals with me.
Well, those things can create tension.
Absolutely.
And just having that understanding, supportive, forgiving wife. Tracy was that for me and my entire career. And I agree with you. Well said. And I was so blessed. You've got Drake your son is a junior, plays football and baseball at Carterville.
He does. Yep. Baseball is his passion, just like me. You know, he's one of those. He's very young for his class, and you know, we joke a lot about he was 5'5", 96 pounds as a freshman, and now he's sprouted up to about 6'2", and he's just now he's not even grown into his body yet. He doesn't know how to walk, but he's got a great personality. You know, he's at that teenage age though.
Yeah,
he's like
good luck with that.
Yeah.
and Ella is beginning her softball career, and she's doing some pitching. You said
she is. She started the whole pitching process, and you know, pitching it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work. But I'm telling you, if you can have 9 Division I power hitters in your lineup, if you don't have a pitcher, you're not going to.
It don't matter. Yeah. So one thing that hasn't changed in the game, after all the things you said had changed, was the pitching still matters, brother.
It is.
Yeah.
It is the most important part of the game.
Yeah, I'm proud of you. I've been able to watch from afar, and you've invited me a few times to come and speak, and I'm always honored to do that. But anytime someone opens that door and invites you into their program, it's a big deal. And I just want to tell you that I've learned a lot from you over the years, watching you coach, and I learned a lot today. You have found that secret to how to win, how to be successful, but to maintain the fun, keep the energy, keep the enthusiasm, and that is a difficult balance, Will. And I know for a fact that you have built relationships with your girls where they know you are as concerned about them on a personal level as you are in an athletic level. And I think that is what transcends the game. And I know that great things are still awaiting in the future for your program. I'm sure you'll have continued success. The lessons you've taught the viewers today about being proactive in dealing with situations and that balance between family and the game have been priceless, and I appreciate you sharing those today.
Oh yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and I look forward. I'm going to be reaching out here soon anyways, because I know I'm going to need some advice and how to handle certain situations. But again, appreciate everything you do for Southern Illinois. The amount of information that I have received from other coaches and what you're doing is invaluable.
Well, I appreciate that. The idea was to shine the spotlight and let people see kind of behind the curtain of what successful coaches are really like, not just headlines and win-loss records. And I think you revealed a lot today of the kind of human being you are, what kind of heart you have for our kids in Southern Illinois and your athletes. So thank you very much, Will Capie.
Thank you.
I want to thank Abby and Ross again in Swinford Media. I want to thank Crown Brew. I want to thank my buddies at Adrenaline. I want to thank you for listening and for watching and for continuing to be supportive of what we're doing here. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.